Greetings, NFL fans. Today is Tuesday, January 6th, 2015. This is the Shutdown Corner Podcast. I am Kevin Kaduk, here with Frank Schwab and Jay Busbee. Before we begin, my New Year's resolution was to ask you to recommend us to your friends, tweet us about us, leave us a good review. We're headed into the most important part of our season here on the Shutdown Corner Podcast, and we could use all the new listeners that we can get, so we appreciate doing that. Now that that's out of the way, a little house cleaning done, let's talk about Lions-Cowboys, which lived up to what we waited all weekend. The first three games were pretty meh. I was a little entertained with Ravens-Steelers, other ones not so much. But Lions-Cowboys was exactly what we expected from that afternoon slot. And it was like everything we could have asked for. Am I wrong?
Did they play a game? Did they really play a game? I thought it was just one play. I thought that
We'll get to that. It's set up exactly the way that you wanted it to, because you had no idea which one of these teams was going to win, and no matter what, you knew that one team was going to carry the choker label around for the next year just because of it.
And because of the franchises. I really thought during the game, like, each one of those sidelines, with every single thing that went wrong, each sideline was thinking, here we go again. Because that's just who their franchises are. The Cowboys since about 96. The Lions since God knows when time started. So it was almost like, one of those fan bases was just getting crushed. It was a great game. It was a fantastic game. I thought it was. I thought, the Lions getting out in front, they did pose a great matchup challenge to the Cowboys. I thought the Cowboys had just a gutsy win to get back and win that. There were so many times they could have folded the tent, whether it was falling behind early, Dan Bailey missing the field goal, which he never does, DeMarco Murray getting the holding, the touchdown, take it back on the holding call. They had so many chances to just say, it's not our day, we're the same old Cowboys. And they didn't, and I was very impressed.
Is there any team out there, Frank, that you feel less confident with a huge lead than the Detroit Lions? I mean, it's just that kind of like a baby playing with a lit match thing. You know something bad's going to happen.
I really thought we know it was 14-zip first quarter, because I thought going in that the Lions really did give them a problem, just because their front is so good and Dallas really likes to run the ball. And then it's 14-zip, and that whole crowd had to be so tight. I mean, you could probably hear a pin drop in that stadium at the end of the first quarter. I really thought the Lions were going to get it done. I didn't think they were just going to implode like they did.
Well, what did the Cowboys do differently? Because, like you said, that defensive line for Detroit, they look so good. I was looking at that and said, this is a Super Bowl caliber defensive line. You said last week the Detroit Lions could be the team that rises up and makes that Super Bowl run, and you wouldn't be surprised. And when we did see that first quarter, the 14-0 lead helped. But on the other hand, that defensive line, it was like, well, no one might be able to stop this. What did the Cowboys do differently?
They just protected better. They had to really put the ball in Romo's hands, which they haven't really done all year. And they protected him really well. You look at the 4th and 6. He had all day to hit Witten. You look at the game-winning touchdown. He really had all day. And he found Terrence Williams. I think they just changed their game plan. The Lions ran out of steam a little bit. And the Lions' offense didn't do much in the second half. I mean, they allowed the Cowboys to score the last 17 points. Golden Tate has a huge play early on, and then where did he go? And where was Calvin Johnson in the fourth quarter? Stuff like that. So,
well, that was the thing. You saw it from Golden Tate. It's like, okay, well, there's Golden Tate's touchdown. Where's Calvin Johnson's 2 touchdowns? Those are still coming, right? And those never came.
So, Frank, you never have a problem assigning blame here. Do you blame the Lions, or do you credit the Cowboys?
Oh, I credit the Cowboys. I really do. I think that if there's blame to go around, it's on Jim Caldwell not going for it on 4th and 1. I think, what are you doing? You've won one playoff game since 1957. You're on the road. You're a big underdog. Yes, the non-call just happened, but get yourself together. The play there was to go for it. And if you don't get it, you don't get it. You still have a really good defense that can get a stop. It's not like, people act like, when you go for it, well, if you don't get it, you're screwed. No, if you don't get it, now your defense has to play. And the Lions had a great defense. I thought that was their mistake. And then the guy shanks the punt, and it really looks bad. But it's, what, I really do think that just the Cowboys played well. I thought Romo played really well. I thought their guys, their defense made some plays, got some stops. I really credit the Cowboys way more than I blame the Lions.
I feel like the only thing that we were missing from a complete maestro-like Detroit Lions performance had they gotten into field goal position and the kicker missed the kick with all the problems they've had. with kickers over the past few
Boy,
years.
you know what, too? DeMarcus Lawrence is the luckiest guy in the world because, if the Lions win that game, that's all this podcast is. We're talking about DeMarcus Lawrence not falling on the ball. He got the Cowboys lineman, got the fumble. He's tried running with it, which, I know it's his instinct. But if he just goes down, the game's pretty much done.
Well, the best part about that, he didn't just start running, but he started throwing moves out there.
Oh yeah, he was. Oh yeah, he was ready, man. This was
bouncing left, bouncing right. Come on, dude.
And then he gets stripped, and the Lions get it back, and you're like, oh my god. I started to think wow, that might be a play I'm really going to be writing about in a few minutes here, and then it turns out the Cowboys got the stand, and I really truly was rooting for Matthew Stafford on that last drive, just because I kind of I like when guys change the story about themselves. They change the narrative. And if Matthew Stafford, who did play well, if he goes and drives them for a game-winning score, it would have been just totally it just changes everything about kind of how we view him and his career and all that. And then he just couldn't get it done. And I would have liked to seen Stafford do a little more, I guess. I think he did have 300 yards and he played pretty well, but oh boy,
I was rooting for the Cowboys the entire way because, as I said, I'm on the Cowboys bandwagon, full speed ahead, and now we've got an Ice Bowl rematch. First time that the Cowboys are in a playoff game at Lambeau since the Ice Bowl. Awesome.
And it's crazy because it's almost like how the Denver Broncos feel about the New England Patriots, how they go there every single year. That's how it was for the Packers in the 90s. Every year the Cowboys were the road game in the regular season, and then every year the Packers would play there in the playoffs and usually get just their teeth kicked in by Alvin Harper and Michael Irvin and Jay Novacek and such. And now, the game being in Lambeau, it's a great matchup. However we got here, I mean,
when you think of 90s matchups, the rivalries, you think Cowboys 49ers, but that Cowboys Packers rivalry is very, very underrated because that Packers team was young and up and coming and trying to break through, and the Cowboys were kind of like the Pistons to their Chicago Bulls.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, if you ask any Packers fans from that era, they're still a little. I bet you could find at least a number of them still a little bitter that the Panthers pulled off that upset in the divisional round over the Cowboys, because every Packers fan in '96, January '97, knew they were going to beat Dallas. I wanted Dallas. They really wanted Dallas. I believe even at the end of the 49ers game when Desmond Howard had the great game that fans were chanting, "We want Dallas, we want Dallas." And it's almost like a little bit like that was their shot to get the Cowboys in Lambeau and beat them, and I think they would have.
Nothing will ever be weirder than that conference championship weekend that involved the Panthers and Jaguars. What, two seasons?
Oh
after?
yeah,
they were both one.
Nuts.
Exactly, they were both one win away from the Super Bowl, the most irrelevant and off the wall Super Bowl ever.
Yeah.
Before we say goodbye to the Lions, though, Demacon Sue, is it the last time we see him in a Lions?
Wait a minute! We have to because we have to talk. So at this point, this is where we get the caller, and he started talking about the NFL's conspiracy to put the Packers and Cowboys at the same, and they had it against the Lions all game long. Frank, you've had hundreds and hundreds of emails saying you this. We've had people tweeting us saying that NBC and Yahoo are part of the conspiracy, and we are nothing but pawns, and we're taking direct instructions from Roger Goodell. Frank, I'll just let you go off.
Hang on, okay. I'm getting a text from Mr. Goodell. He's saying, "Be very careful."
What am I supposed to say here, Roger? Okay, right. I got it. There's two parts of this. This whole ordeal. There's two very different parts. One is the play itself, and I said right away, I was kind of surprised that people thought this was absolutely pass interference. And I think the problem is, I said right away, okay, that's fine. I have no problem with them picking up that flag. The thing people don't understand is face guarding is not a crime. It is not illegal. There's nothing in the rule book. The NFL has said this multiple times now since the game. You can look at a receiver. You don't have to turn around. Yeah, it gets called a lot, but when make any contact. But you have to make contact. The fact that he didn't turn around for the ball is not a part of the conversation. It is not. It is that he can do that. Anthony Hitchens can do exactly what he did and have his back to the ball, face the receiver. That's not illegal. So now you look at, was there enough contact for PI? And as Dean Blandino said yesterday, head of officiating in the NFL, it's debatable. It could go either way. It's a very tough call. That's the way I felt about it. I thought If we're just in a normal circumstance and they don't throw a flag, would anybody have been complaining about this? No, nobody complained. It would just been a normal play. You would have said, yeah, he could have thrown a flag maybe, but whatever, and nobody remembers the play.
Had they thrown yeah, it's also it's that they picked up the flag. It's not just that they threw
that's
it.
That's what screwed it up. That's what screwed it up. If they never throw a flag, we're not discussing this play ever again. Nobody remembers it because the pass interference itself was very ticky-tack. It was very, very. It could go either way. If you want to argue it was pass interference, that's fine, but don't send me screenshots because that is stupid. Like, it is. You could screenshot any NFL play, and I did. Go back and read if you go to Shutdown Corner, read my post on debunking the conspiracy theory. I picked a play literally at random. I just went to Game Rewind, clicked on the first week I saw, clicked on the first game I saw, clicked on the first pass play I saw, and I screenshotted a holding call. Because that happens every single play. It does. You could screenshot anything. It doesn't prove anything to me. Don't be smarter than that. You can't screenshot this. So the pass interference itself, and then Dean Blandino says there should have been holding before. You know what? I would have complained if they would have called a holding there. I didn't think that really changed the play that much. Yeah, he grabbed his jersey, but I didn't think that was. I don't want to see that called on third down in a playoff game. I just don't. I want to see I thought it was incidental more than anything. And then we get to the third part, which everybody is still complaining about. Dez Bryant was on the field. Yes, I saw it. Thank you. You don't need to
Dez was on the field.
Dez was on
He was on the field.
I swear to God, I've gotten 100 emails asking me if I saw Dez. Yes, I saw it. Of course I did. But it is a couple of things about this. Everybody complains his helmet wasn't on. That is not a penalty. It is not a penalty for a guy to come off the sideline and not have his helmet on. It is only a penalty for the guys on the field on that play. So don't tell me about this anymore. I don't care that he didn't have his helmet on because it's not a foul. It's not illegal. Now, he came out onto the field to argue with the refs, and everybody wants a flag. I guarantee you, if you go to these people 2 to 3 days ago, whatever, before this game and ask, do you want to see an official call a penalty that's really, it doesn't matter. It's meaningless penalty for Dez Bryant to come out to argue to decide a playoff game. Everyone would have said, no, I don't want to see that. I want to see the players decide the game. Now all of a sudden we want to see referees decide a game on meaningless penalty like Dez Bryant was arguing. They have the leeway there. It's not an automatic call. They have the leeway to say, you got a little heated. He came out, whatever. We're not going to throw the flag. We don't want to decide the game on that. I don't want to watch an NFL where that's a penalty. It's let them play. Yeah, Dez got a little heated, whatever. No, what do you do? Do these people emailing me about Dez being on the field, do they go to basketball games and hate the game and just root for technical fouls? Like, oh, God, this game is horrible. I wish the referees would call more technical fouls on the coaches arguing. Like, no, this doesn't happen, and it shouldn't happen in this case. I'm totally fine with them picking up that flag because it was meaningless. It didn't matter. Who cares if Dez Bryant was arguing? It wasn't anything consequential to the play. It's a superfluous foul that just shouldn't get called. It just shouldn't. That's why don't argue with me about Dez Bryant being on the field. I don't care.
Look, all I got to say is, where did this game happen? Dallas. Where was Kennedy shot? Dallas. Who shot Kennedy's assassin? Jack Ruby. Where was Jack Ruby's brother from? Detroit. It all fits, man.
It all fits. I think Pete Morelli was the guy on the grassy knoll. I think that we've all come full circle on this now. And let me get the second part of this is the conspiracy theory. And again, I hate to go on a filibuster.
Folks, he is not done. The rant continues. Go ahead.
I wish to anybody who thinks this is a conspiracy theory, please, for the love of God, just quit watching the NFL. Just stop. Do something with your life that's a little more meaningful, because if you're sitting around waiting for the NFL to have a bad call and, the NFL's fixed. The NFL's not fixed. Why on earth? There's no reason. You have to have a motive for a fix. There's no motive. And people, the Cowboys, Packers are going to do great TV ratings. The NFL's television contract with Fox, who has that game, goes through 2023. They don't get any extra money out of this. They don't get, hey, we fixed a game for you. You're going to get a little bit better. No, that's not life. That doesn't happen. Fox is going to do great ratings for that game. But you know what? Fox would have done pretty good ratings for Lions Seahawks. Or I think maybe NBC has a game. Lions Seahawks would have done very good ratings, more than the Panthers Seahawks. So they would all came out in a wash. People would have watched Panthers Packers. They don't think, what are the mechanics of this? Do you think that if the NFL wanted to fix a game, that they would bring back Ndamukong Suh after they suspended him? No, of course not. If the NFL's fixing a game, they're leaving Ndamukong Suh on the bench. Do you think that they would call back a touchdown by DeMarco Murray on a holding penalty? This is a really bad way to throw a game, by the way. We're now to the point where you're trying to throw a game, but you're calling back a touchdown on the Cowboys. So what do you? That's just bad. You're bad at fixing a game at this point.
Or maybe they're very, very good. Maybe they're putting up a hell of a smoke
screen. Us off the set.
Come on, man. Levels within levels.
And if they really were fixing this game, and that call was your smoking gun, they would have never thrown the flag. Because like I said before, if they don't throw the flag there, nobody, and I mean nobody's talking about it. They could have just not thrown the flag. If you want Dallas to win, you don't throw the flag there. Nobody cares, whatever. They screwed up the mechanics of the call. That's what screwed this up, is that they threw the flag. Pete Morelli says pass interference. This is a new crew working together, all-star crews. That's what happens in the playoffs. You take the best officials, you put them on crews that they haven't worked with all year. I think it should be teams, but whatever. I think the crews should stay together, top-rate crews, but that doesn't happen. So there's a lot of communication that happens. The head linesman went to the back judge and say, hey, I saw this, I saw that. The back judge decides. Nothing was overruled. The back judge took the information, decided, okay, you're right, I'm going to pick up the flag. Pete Morelli didn't get this information quick enough. So, yes, it was really weird that he called it and then they reversed it. But that's not proof that there's a conspiracy. Why would they call it initially if there was conspiracy? You really think Jerry Jones calling down to the field? Like, really? You really think this happens? The NFL makes about $9 billion a year, roughly. I don't know. Maybe it's 8, maybe it's 10, whatever. The NFL crumbles if there is exposed a conspiracy. You fix the game for Dallas. If Roger Goodell called Pete Morelli and his crew and said, hey, we need Dallas to win, the NFL literally crumbles. It blows itself up. So the NFL's risking a $9 billion a year business so the Dallas Cowboys can get 5 million more viewers next Sunday? It's ludicrous. This just doesn't happen. There's no conspiracy. It was a bad call. If you want to say it was a bad call, I'm fine with that. Okay, you could argue it was pass interference or holding wasn't called, or even Dez on the field, fine. But if you come to me and say that and then say this call was bad because the NFL is rigged, you've just totally screwed up any possible argument you had, because I don't take you seriously anymore, because it's just foolish to think the NFL's fixed.
This is like therapy for you, isn't it, Frank?
It is. Trust me, I do. Shutdown Corner email. I answer just about all of them, unless you cuss me out. And even some of those I answer because they're fun. But I answer all these emails, and I'm just saying the same thing over and over. Like, the NFL's just not fixed. Why? Why would the NFL risk, again, a $9 billion a year business to fix a game for the Dallas Cowboys when the Detroit Lions would have been an awesome story? If the Detroit Lions go to the second round, we're sitting here talking today about, wow, Matthew Stafford, Calvin Johnson, and Dominic Sue, these big stars, they're going to go play Dallas as defending champs. What a great game. People are going to tune into that game. They're going to tune in to see Cam Newton at Lambeau. So what's the motive, really? What is the motive for having the – and people are like, oh, Dean Blandino, he was partying on the Cowboys bus, the head of officiating. I really doubt that they sat down that day and just really like mapped out, hey, Dallas, you're going to go 12-4 and make the playoffs, so we're going to fix a game for you in this specific manner where we kind of screw it up and call a flag and pick it. It just doesn't. That's not how any of this works.
Let me present just one without going completely down the crank rabbit hole there. Let me present to you the traditional theory, which is that the refs were intimidated by the home crowd.
Oh, maybe that's true. It happens in every sport, especially. I think I'm a huge college basketball fan. I see it every night. I mean, there's a reason home teams in college basketball win all the time, and it's not because they just shoot better. But even I guess that's just part of the game. When the home team gets more calls, yeah, of course. Why do you think home field advantage exists? I don't. But that doesn't mean there's a conspiracy. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that officiating crew was a little intimidated by the home crowd because that happened. You know, I guess you get caught up, whatever. It doesn't mean it's a conspiracy. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about people have emailed me. Somebody emailed me yesterday saying, I can't tell the truth because I am part of the NFL, and if I do so, I will not be able to write about the NFL anymore. You realize what you're saying? Like, no, that's insane. If I thought the game was fixed, and I don't, I'd write about it because that would be a great story if I found out. Hey, if Pete Morelli called me up on my phone today and said, hey, Frank, I got a great scoop for you. Yeah, I'm going to write about that because it'd be the biggest story of all time, but it didn't happen. Games aren't fixed, folks. If you want to go and say some college player who's broke because the NCAA refuses to pay him, he would throw a game. Maybe, yeah, I guess I could maybe buy this theory, but the NFL's a Massive business. Massive. Why would they risk it all to get Jerry Jones into the next round of the playoffs? It's just nonsensical. I know conspiracy theories are fun, but if you're really serious about it, you're just wrong. There's not many times things are just black and white.
Now let me continue. Let me continue to the witness.
Yes.
Let me pose another question. Actually, a name, Tim Donaghy. We've heard referees in the NBA throwing games. It doesn't have to be a full NFL conspiracy. It could be, and I am not accusing anyone, but it could be one individual who has the ability to change the game. What say you to the possibility that a referee could in some way change the game?
But who would have changed it at that point? The back judge? Because remember, the mechanics of the play are that the back judge called it, and it's his call. Dean Blandino explained this perfectly. I didn't even know this. The back judge throws the flag. At that point, he's the only one that can pick that flag up. He can't be overruled by the head linesman. He can't be overruled by the referee. It is his call to make. He took in. So you have to believe that the back judge threw the flag. The back judge was on the take, I guess, threw the flag, and then picked it up. Why would he throw the flag to begin with? Or even if you say like the head linesman, he came over and convinced him. Well, what did the back judge? It's his guy. It's his call. I don't think he would be, influenced by that at all. I don't see that because
I'm saying maybe the head linesman showed the back judge a picture of his kids at school and said, "Hey, if you want to keep them safe." I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
And a couple of things. The Tim Donaghy thing was that he was betting on games, which I think is if you're going to fix a game, it's got to be for that, right? That's going to be it. The Cowboys didn't even cover the spread. Somebody brought this up to me yesterday. Somebody was like, the Cowboys were favorites. How could you not know this is fixed? It's a gambling conspiracy. The spread was 7 points. The Cowboys didn't cover. So who made money on that? Like, unless somehow you bet the Cowboys money line or something. Yeah, I mean, none of that makes sense from just, and again, if this is happening, if the referees are on the take, well, why do you call roughing the punter against Dallas and Detroit's end zone, which leads to a 99-yard touchdown drive? Why do you take back a penalty, take back a touchdown by DeMarco Murray on a really questionable holding penalty on Jason Witten? I thought it was a fine call. I don't mind the call, but you don't have to call that there. But they did. If you're going to fix a game, do a little bit better job fixing a game because there were calls on both sides. They could have gone either way.
I want to give myself a little pat on the back here. Just moving on. I went 3 of 4 on picks, and I think I also picked the Cowboys not to cover. So I feel pretty good. And I felt bad. I felt bad picking the Bengals, and I knew better when I was doing it, and I did it anyway. I don't know why I picked the Bengals to win a playoff game on the road with Andy Dalton, but I somehow did it. I don't know why. I don't know what overcame me last Friday.
I did the same thing.
Yeah,
and especially there was a time early in that game when you're kind of like, yeah, there's no A.J. Green. There's no Jermaine Gresham. None of these guys can get open. Wow, this Bengals. I picked the Bengals too. I was like, this Bengals pick is in trouble. They're not doing it.
So what was the most surprising game of the weekend? Was there truly a surprising game outside of the way Detroit went?
To me, the surprise anyway of the weekend. It wasn't necessarily a result, but just how bad the Cardinals looked. You were there, Jay,
yes.
And. If you would have told me that the Panthers win, okay, I could see that. If you would have told me the Panthers win and Ryan Lindley looks really bad, sure, I could believe that. But to get 78 yards in an NFL game is just so crazy to me. Like, Bruce Arians is a great offensive coach. They got Floyd and Fitz and John Brown, who are great receivers. To get 78, I think it was 78, right? That's what they ended up with?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
I mean, that was the shocking part to me, just how inept the Cardinals were. And they were kind of still in that game for a really long time somehow.
And then they never go to Logan Thomas. You don't owe Ryan Lindley anything.
How bad is he?
He's not your future. He's not. He doesn't own a big contract. He's clearly not working. Your season is going down the drain. Why? I mean, I don't understand at all.
Here's my question and my conspiracy theory of the week. It's not really a conspiracy theory. They before week 16, I think it was. It was like Tuesday. They didn't announce, but people reported that they decided Logan Thomas was going to be their starter. By the end of practice on Wednesday, they had decided, oh my God, we can't start Logan Thomas. We need to go back to Ryan Lindley. I want to see a tape of this practice. I want to see it. Literally must be the worst practice anybody has had in the history of football. Like, how bad must Logan Thomas have been that day for the Cardinals coaching staff to go into the practice saying, he's our guy, he's our starter, and to come out saying, oh yeah, we got to go with Ryan Lindley. Like, oh my God! Like, what did he show up in like hockey goalie gear? Like, did he try to play defense the whole time? Like, what could he have done? Did he like whiz balls at Bruce Arians' head all day? Like, what could he have done during this practice that the Cardinals coaching staff said, yeah, Ryan Lindley is clearly our better option than this guy?
So can I throw with my other hand, Coach? Because I'm real good at that.
Yes, I totally agree. For Logan Thomas not to even get a shot, I think it just speaks to Logan Thomas at this point, because Ryan Lindley was fantastically awful. Like, all time. I don't know if I've ever seen a quarterback struggle that bad in a playoff game awful.
Yeah, it was just, he was overmatched on almost every single play. You could see it right from the start. Their first couple of plays were a cautious run, a weak pass, and then just 3 and out the first couple of plays. So,
well, let me ask, because you were there, Jay. Everybody's kind of jumping on this Carolina bandwagon a little bit. We'll talk about that more on Friday, but trust me, there's another rant there. But do you buy Carolina's defense? Because Lindley threw for 300 yards or about that against San Francisco, who's got a pretty good defense. Now he comes out against Carolina, and they can't even break 100 yards. Do you think that's Carolina's defense, or was it Arizona?
I think it was Carolina's defense. I don't think that they are. Obviously, Arizona helped, but Carolina's defense was solid. They were strong up front, and their cornerbacks came into their own. I think that was the key, is that they just didn't give him, and they had the perfect game plan for him. I don't know how well they'll do against a team that's a little bit more confident under center, the way that Seattle is, but I asked them these questions. I was like, what's the danger of going in overconfident? They said, we didn't go in overconfident. We looked at tape. We saw the tape. He didn't do anything we didn't expect. He didn't do anything that we hadn't prepared for, something that they were prepared for a young and inexperienced quarterback, and they executed it perfectly.
Do you think they have any chance going up to Seattle, Jay?
I think they've got a chance. I think that they have to play a flawless game. I don't think that they get the chance to make the kind of mistakes that they did with the offense in terms of Cam Newton being indecisive, making bad throws, making dumb throws. They make those kind of mistakes against Seattle, and they're screwed. But as long as they have to play a flawless game, but I do think it's winnable for them.
Well, I don't. I think that. Well, I mean, I think it's winnable in that any NFL team can win any game, just because it's not college, it's the NFL, and the 32nd team isn't that much worse than the first team. But their percentage chance is really low to me. I think Seattle's just.
Yeah, I'm picking Seattle, but I think that.
Yeah, I don't think
it's not outside the realm of possibility that Carolina.
Well, if you look at their last 2 or 3 games that the Seahawks and Panthers have played, every game is like 17-13, 13-9, 13-12, whatever it was.
Right, but
so if it's that sort of game, all it is 1 pick 6 away from.
Yeah, but these games are happening in Carolina, and trust me, people who Seattle playing in Seattle is just.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying.
It is such a game changer. I have people say that to me on Twitter, or whatnot. Be like, well, they played 13-10. It's right there. They're close. But they couldn't even win in Carolina. I'm supposed to believe that they're going to go into Seattle and win? No. Seattle is...
We said whoever is getting the Panthers or Cardinals is getting a bye into the NFC game.
I still agree with that.
Yeah. So.
The Panthers are not a very good team. They're a 7-8-1 team. Okay, well.
8-1, Frank.
Yeah, they're straight 500 now.
Oh yeah, they got that big win. That big win over Ryan Lindley. I'm convinced.
What who of the 4 victors, who impressed you the most? Who came out?
It might be. I mean, Cowboys had a very impressive win, but it might be the Ravens. And the Ravens are, for somebody like me who I don't believe in clutch necessarily. I don't think that you just go into October in baseball or January football or whatever and become a different player. I think you are who you are. And over a small sample size, you could become Mark Lemke and hit 500 in the World Series. That's great.
Woohoo.
But it doesn't really – that's for you, Jay. It doesn't change – like, you don't change who you are. But Joe Flacco does kind of, like, make me wonder, like, is he just a different guy in January somehow, some way? He's a guy who has an 84 career rating, and he has now had 7 straight games in the playoffs of a 95 rating or better. And he had a 114 on Saturday night. And he literally just becomes a different guy.
Who called the good Joe Flacco performance and the John Harbaugh? Someone said that on Friday. Was it one of the 3?
Yeah, you might.
Oh, it was me. Yeah, that's right.
Because I have such a tough time believing in clutch, because I really don't believe. I got, in some small sense, it does exist. I think some players rise to the moment, some players shrink from the moment. I don't think he just become a different player though. And Joe Flacco though literally becomes a different player, and the Ravens kind of become a different team, I guess. I went from like this Ravens team, which was 1-6 against winning teams in the regular season, and the one win came week 2, to kind of like wondering, do they got a shot at New England? And that's crazy.
I think you have to wonder if they have a shot. I think if any of the road teams has the best chance, it's probably the Ravens, which is crazy considering we've already penciled the Patriots in for the Super Bowl. But you never know. I
thought the Broncos caught a big break this week, by the way. I thought the Steelers with Le'Veon Bell, and who knows, maybe he wouldn't have been able to play. I thought the Steelers with Le'Veon Bell were coming in and winning. I think I even said that last week. Now, I don't think this Colts team is winning there. So I think of all the teams, the Broncos kind of caught the biggest break last week.
We are not giving the Colts any respect. We didn't give them any respect last week. We're not giving them any respect this week. It almost seems like the Colts are good enough to win that first wild card game every year, and the Bengals are bad enough to lose. Good enough, but
it all comes down to this. And I did a few radio hits yesterday, and everybody asked about that game, and I said the same thing every time, and I'll say it here. The Colts are a very, very flawed team, but if you told me Andrew Luck just had that game and he hit 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, okay. Why would I discount that at this point? Andrew Luck is unbelievable. He's a great football player. Yeah, he makes too many mistakes, but you watch him against the Bengals when he's really, really really seeing things well, and you're just like, wow, this guy is good. And if he went into Denver and just had that game, I guess I could see it. But that's the only way they're going to win. That's their only path to victory.
Yeah, who was it that said on Friday that Andrew Luck was going to have a good game? And was oh, that's right. It was me.
A lot of bragging going on.
That's right. Hey, Frank, let's flip this around here. 3 of the 4 teams that lost had significant injury effect. You had A.J. Green for the Bengals. You had Le'Veon Bell for the Steelers. You had damn near everybody for the Cardinals. Which one of those teams do you think would have advanced if they had a full complement?
Well, I think that I have to answer it 2 different ways because I think the Steelers would have advanced. I don't know. I mean, the Ravens did beat them up. Maybe they even lose out with Le'Veon Bell. But I will say, I don't even think the Cardinals are playing with Carson Palmer this week because they would have been the number 1 seed and had the bye. So I don't, the Cardinals just have their fans they've never won a Super Bowl. This is their what would have been season for the ages. I mean, because they were 9-1. Great. Just a fantastically coached team. And then all of a sudden, it just the rug got pulled out from under them. They were just inept at the end. And I think they would have been the number 1 seed in the NFC with 2 games before a home Super Bowl. Like, I feel bad. I really feel bad for the Arizona Cardinals because I really think they had a good team this year, a good shot. And they just got really, really bad luck.
That makes sense.
Let's move on to the lightning round. 3 minutes to ask Frank all the questions we can. Then we'll check out, and on Friday we'll do in-depth previews on all 4 games. 3 minutes. The clock starts now. Jay, you're up.
All right. We talked about Joe Flacco. Cam Newton. What do you think that he has in the tank for Seattle?
I don't know a whole lot. He got really beat up the other day, I thought, but he played well. I thought that on the whole, Cam Newton played pretty well, but against that secondary, they make Aaron Rodgers look bad. I don't know that Cam Newton's necessarily going to be the guy to just go into Seattle and shred the Seattle Seahawks.
Stealing Jay's idea from before you went on your 12-minute long rant, where does Sue land up?
It's a really good question because his salary cap number or his franchise tag number is about $27 million, and there's no way. I think if you get to this point, you hit the open market. Why not? What do you got to lose? I kind of think Detroit somehow gets something done, though. But what about the Raiders? That's the one team that I want to see. You got all this cap room. Just if you're going to go out and get somebody good, don't just get, Maurice Jones-Drew again. Go get Ndamukong Suh with all that money.
How worried should Patriots fans be now that the Ravens are coming to town?
A little bit. I think that the Patriots win. I think they're a really good team, but the Ravens just play differently in January. Please don't ask me to explain it because I can't. But somehow, some way, the Ravens, January comes, and they just turn into a different team. I don't get it, but it happens.
At the risk of sparking another 12-minute rant, Mike Shanahan's still getting jobbed.
Shannon. The whole story that's coming out about that he's going to be the GM and Kyle's going to be the coach. it just makes me throw up my hands and say, I could run an NFL team better than these people. Like, have you not looked at Mike Shanahan's GM record? Of all the things Mike Shanahan can't do, he cannot GM. He can, trust me, I covered the man. I covered many of those drafts with Jarvis Moss and Willie Middlebrooks and all.
Yeah.
The man can't draft. He's not.
He's interviewing here in Chicago.
You know what? I don't think he's a terrible head coach hire, really. But please don't let him anywhere near your front office.
Sticking with the coach theme, apparently Doug Marrone blew the interview with the Jets. That's the word on the street. What was your worst job interview experience, Frank?
This is one of the very rare things that I do well is job interview. I've never had a job interview. I've never had a job interview where I've not been offered the job. Or the job got frozen or something.
Wow.
I've never been passed on, even including my 30-second interview with our friend Matt Ryan at Yahoo, which was one of the weirdest experiences of my life.
Frank Shanahan for New York Jets. You heard it right here.
Yeah. But Doug Marrone, was that a shrewd move to take the $4 million thinking you'd have another one? Or
I thought it was collusion. I thought when you opt out of a contract to be an NFL head coach, I almost thought there's a 100% chance the Jets have already been on the line with his agent saying, he opts out, we take him. But I guess that's not the case. I was wrong. He doesn't have a...
He's not the Joe Madden of the NFL.
No, how... But he became that somehow. Doug Marrone's just a guy, I think, as a coach. He did a fine job this year with Kyle Orton and all that, but I don't know that he's a guy you're just falling head over heels for, but that's what he became when he opted out. Everybody, oh my God, Doug Marrone's on the market. Really? Oh, really? Doug Marrone?
Like one of those things where a guy gets more attractive because he has a girlfriend to other girls.
Yeah, I think so. I guess. But imagine if he walked away from one of the 32 NFL jobs and doesn't get a job. I mean, that's crazy. I understand he got paid and that's good, and maybe he didn't like it in Buffalo because of personnel stuff or whatever. But there's only 32 of these jobs in the world, and you just walked away from one of them. He
worst
might
game
really
of musical
regret.
chairs ever.
It's crazy to me. I guess it's shrewd in one point of just paying, or just getting paid, that he gets $4 million for walking out the door.
He must have had a lot of misplaced confidence that the people in Buffalo wouldn't turn against him and start throwing tomatoes at his back on the way out the door. But that's exactly what happened.
I read. I'm going to mispronounce his name, but Manish Mehta of the New York Daily News wrote an unbelievably scathing piece on Marrone and just how he turned literally everybody off in Buffalo, and he just he basically was saying Jets do not hire this guy, and then he blows the interview.
And that's got to be a concentrated effort on somebody in the Bills organization's thing, because Mehta doesn't just start calling people and get that stuff.
Let's be honest. If you were the Buffalo Bills, whoever in the Buffalo Bills in their front office, and Doug Marrone just did that to you, I'd do the same.
Scorched earth, absolutely.
I would do the same exact thing. Boys, don't cross me. That's what I'm saying.
Don't cross Frank Schwab.
No, really though. Do you blame the Buffalo Bills if that's what happened? I don't.
No, absolutely.
Doug Marrone kind of left them high and dry.
Well, because all of a sudden they've got to hop
$4 million on the way out the door.
Yes, he took $4 million. In a kind of a weird loophole in his contract about if ownership changes, took the $4 million and got out of town. And they've invested. I mean, that's the thing about why people talk about one and done head coaches, and even Trestman in Chicago. Hiring a new head coach is a huge investment.
Right.
The entire franchise changes when you get a new head coach. The way, even I remember when Josh McDaniels came to Denver, the way the building was decorated changed. He put up different pictures. Just everything changes when a new head coach comes, not to mention the football side where you got new offensive scheme, new defensive scheme, all this stuff. And you kind of just flush that away when a guy like Marrone just opts out on you like that.
Right, you got to gear up the entire engine, and then you've got the rest of the NFL, all of the teams that are looking for coaches. It's like a fantasy draft when people start making a run on wide receivers. People are making a run on head coaches now, and you're scared that you're going to be left out, and you're not even prepared. Yet Buffalo was caught completely, as far as I know, flat-footed by this.
Yeah, I mean, there were some reports that it may have been brewing that they could have at least seen it coming for a couple of weeks, but a couple of weeks is a couple of weeks. That still doesn't mean you're anticipating your head coach leaving. I mean, that just doesn't.
How'd you like writing that thing about an hour before you headed out for New Year's Eve?
Yeah, that was fun. I literally I was done and only for 2 minutes I was done because I was still online, or else I would have just shut my laptop. And then I see the reports start coming in. I didn't see this one coming. Mike Shanahan was fired from the Denver Broncos on New Year's Eve too. So It does happen. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. All right. We will be back on Friday with in-depth previews of all the games. Ravens at Patriots on Saturday start things off. Panthers at Seahawks on nightcap. Cowboys at Packers, the early Sunday game. It all stops with Colts at the Broncos. Should be a great round of football. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking about it with you two guys and talking about it with the listeners. So we will be back. This is the Shutdown Corner Podcast. Kevin Kaduk, Frank Schwab, and Jay Busbee. Thanks for joining us.